The Many Miracles of Satya Sai by Mr. Rajesh Thapa. The first time I heard of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba was in the late 1970s while in college. Unfortunately, I did not take him seriously and even made fun of him, influenced by what I read in the newspapers about fake Babas who had cheated their followers. I thought Satya Sai, too, was one of them. Additionally, his claim of being God in the Kali Yuga was impossible for me to comprehend. Why fear when I am here in the 1950s and 1960s? I grew up in Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Brunei as my father was a soldier in the 6th Kuyo Gurkha Rifles of the British Army. My mother was a school teacher in the same battalion. Sometimes, when I played with my friends, there would be situations where we would need help solving problems or issues. I would remark, "Why fear when I am here?" to make the mood lighter. I felt proud for coming up with a catchy phrase without realizing that I was actually using Swami's assurance to his devotees. From childhood, I have been keen on serving the community and wanted to become a doctor. But, considering the age limit, other technical challenges, and course prerequisites, I could not get into a medical college. My mother advised me to take up teaching as a profession and apply for British Army schools as she had. Though that was the last thing I wanted to do, I eventually took up teaching as a career and developed a passion for the profession. In 1987, I was selected for a teaching post in a British Army school in Hong Kong. My experience with accepting Swami was similar to my choosing a career in teaching, although much later in life. Considering him God was the last thing I wanted to do, though my parents had accepted him as such. Swami's master plan unfolds in December 1989. I got married to Sarita. She had faith in Swami as she witnessed Swami's miracles firsthand at her own home in India as a child. So, before she flew to Hong Kong to start our life together, my father gifted her a large picture of Swami. But I did not allow my wife to place that picture in our shrine. In 1992, after a brief stint at the British Army School in Brunei, I was promoted and posted in Hong Kong, where my college friend, Urmila, became my colleague. She was a follower of Baba and encouraged me to read books on Swami. She even lent me some books from her collection. As I read these books, my antipathy toward him turned to curiosity, and I gradually gained faith. We also started experiencing his miracles at home. Over time, with a small group of friends, we started holding Sai Bhajans weekly. Urmila was instrumental in not only introducing us to Swami but also teaching us bhajans and sacred chants. Swami grants darshan in Hong Kong. One of the many miracles we experienced was in 1995 when our eldest son, Amod, suffered from a very high fever of 103 to 104 degrees Fahrenheit for several days. He was just over 3 years old, and the medicines were not working at all. One night, my wife woke me up at 2 a.m., very worried about Amod's condition. I promised to take him to the doctor the next morning, but she continued her prayers, holding on to Swami. The next morning, we were in for a pleasant surprise. Amod had no fever. He had fully recovered and was playing by himself. Pointing to Swami's photo, the 3-year-old child told us that Satya Sai Baba had come out from there at night and gave him a spoonful of water to drink. Sai Baba went to each and every room in the house. Then, he returned to the bedroom and went back into the same photo on the wall, How could a child make up such a story and narrate what happened in such detail? We realized that it was our compassionate Bhagwan who came, gave darshan, and cured our son of a high fever. Swami's blessings can do wonders. I always wanted a daughter, but when my wife gave birth to two sons in 1991 and 1992, I lost all hope. Then, in 1994, when we were living in Hong Kong, my wife became pregnant for the third time. One day, Urmila, my college friend and colleague, visited us at home with a handkerchief, which Swami had blessed. She knew we wanted a daughter. So, she asked my wife to rub the handkerchief on her belly and told her that Swami's blessings could do wonders. But we had our doubts and were not confident it would help. Dispelling all doubts, lo and behold, our daughter, Surina, was born in September of that year to our greatest joy but much to the surprise of the doctor and the medical staff. The nurses then shared the reason for their surprise with my wife, that the doctor had told them in confidence much earlier in her pregnancy that it was going to be a boy this time, too. We not only thanked Swami but also realized that Swami knows our innermost thoughts and desires and that his blessings can do wonders. When Swami calls us, he makes the impossible possible. In 2002, my mother was ill with heart problems, and my wife, Sarita, traveled with my youngest son, Ajitesh, from Brunei to Nepal to take my mother to the super specialty hospital in Puttaparthi. Sarita and Ajitesh traveled with my parents to Puttaparthi for the first time. The doctors in super specialty did all the necessary tests the same day and were surprised to see that my mother was able to endure such a long journey with only 15% of her heart working. My family was blessed to have Swami's darshan before returning to Nepal. We realized when Swami calls you, the impossible becomes possible. The same year, I had a strong desire to visit Puttaparthi. But a few days before I went to Nepal, I discovered that direct flights to Bangalore by the then Royal Nepal Airlines were discontinued. Although disappointed, I was determined to reach Puttaparthi via any flight. But to my great and pleasant surprise, on reaching Kathmandu, I found that Royal Nepal Airlines had just resumed direct flights to Bangalore. This was convenient for me because I was traveling alone and for the first time to Puttaparthi. I spent a few days in Puttaparthi and had Swami's darshan before flying back to Kathmandu. After reaching Kathmandu, I was further surprised to find out that Royal Nepal Airlines had decided to stop direct flights to Bangalore once again. This was when I realized when Swami calls you, he makes all the arrangements. Swami feeds birds in Brunei. We were in Brunei in 2009. My 17-year-old second son, Ishan, was visiting us from his boarding school for the weekend. As he was getting ready for breakfast, from the corner of his eyes, he saw someone standing on the porch outside our living room. As he turned around to see who it was, he saw Swami in his orange robe, standing and feeding the birds with rice grains, which we did every morning at the same spot. Just as Ishan called out Swami's name, he disappeared. When we all came running into the living room, Ishan described in detail what he saw. Who says that one has to travel to some place to see Swami? Swami can give darshan to his devotees in any country, even far away, at any time. Swami's protection is forever. In 2017, I retired from the British Army School in Brunei and, by Swami's grace, opened a restaurant in Kuala Belait, Brunei. On 1st December 2020, we drove from Kuala Belait to the capital city of Bandar Seri Begawan, about 110 kilometers away. I always play Sai bhajans in the car and usually drive very fast because, otherwise, I would feel sleepy. So, I was driving around 160 to 170 kilometers per hour on the highway. Halfway along the journey, I heard a slight popping sound behind me on the right-hand side of the car, but I continued driving. Suddenly, it struck me that, perhaps, one of the tires had punctured. So, I stopped my car on the side of the highway to check the tires, and to my horror, I saw that the rear tire was not only punctured but completely shredded. I wondered how my car did not go out of control, overturn, or even wobble at such high speed. It was the Sai bhajans that had miraculously drawn Sai's grace. My next problem was getting the spare tire out because it was kept under the floor in the rear of the Toyota Innova I was driving. My poor eyesight made it difficult to insert the retrieving rod into a groove in a small hole. As I was struggling, suddenly, a van stopped behind us. The Indonesian driver and his friend got out and offered to help, saying that he saw us stranded and took a U-turn to come and help us. As he changed the tire, my wife noticed his van's number plate, KH7830, which surprisingly had the same digits as our vehicle, KJ3087, but in a different sequence. After he had changed the tire, we offered them some money, which they refused. My wife then offered some grapes, which they happily accepted. They told us they visit Kuala Bilit twice weekly to deliver orders. We invited them to have free lunch at our restaurant during their next visit and noted their phone number. Though we sent them several messages via WhatsApp, inviting them to lunch at our restaurant, they never responded. And, to this day, Sarita and I wonder if it was Shirdi Sai Baba and Swami who came to our rescue that day in the form of the two Indonesian gentlemen. Gold chain lost in Brunei found in Nepal in August 2019. Sarita had to travel from Brunei to Dharmshala, India, via New Delhi because her mother was seriously ill. On the day of her flight, Sarita decided to remove her gold necklace which was presented to her by my mother after our wedding. She kept it in a container on the dresser. After several weeks, she returned to Brunei and wanted to wear the necklace, but it was nowhere to be found. She and my daughter, Surina, both searched for it everywhere but in vain. Sarita finally decided to seek Swami's help through prayer and picking a yes-no chits, as many Sai devotees do when in a difficult or unfortunate situation. Swami's answer to her was that the necklace would be found, which set her mind to rest. 2 years later, in December 2021, Sarita went to Kathmandu to get some important documents we needed in Brunei. One day, she decided to sort out some of our suitcases and found a box in one of the suitcases. When she opened the box, she discovered a small yellow jewelry purse. In Brunei, all jewelry shops pack the jewelry when we purchase it in small purses with the shop's name clearly printed on it. But this purse had no typical branding with the shop's name. She curiously opened it to see what was inside. To her utter amazement, it was the gold necklace that was missing in Brunei. How could a gold necklace lost in Brunei be found in Kathmandu? I believe it was exactly like how my faith, which was lost in my head, was found in my heart, through Swami's unconditional love and grace. Mr. Rajesh Thapa.